We thank Luna, Ruth, Ryan, and Emily for the offertory. Good morning. My name is Eva Riebold, and I use she, her pronouns. And the title of my message this morning is Resilience, Strength, and Flexibility. I am a member of the Sunday Services Committee because I am the pianist here at First UU and therefore a staff member. I've also been a member of the Sunday Services Committee for about 20 years because I enjoy helping create Sunday services. I am one of the more quiet ones, being more of an observer and commentator, and I help mostly with the music part of the service. I have learned a lot from helping create services and a lot from the Soul Matters materials, which this church subscribes to through the UUA. You know how we have themes each month to help us structure our services. Soul Matters brings us these themes and gives us resources. It also provides materials for us to study in small groups. I'm a member of one of these small groups. They are a way of looking more deeply into the themes and into ourselves and learning about each other and bonding together as part of a group. I encourage you all to seek out a group in order to have communion with other people, particularly in these stressful times. It's easier to get acquainted in small groups, and then small groups make the big group, our church. Back to our theme, resilience. One image that pops up for me are skyscrapers. They have to be very strong in their skeletons and in their cores, and they are also engineered for flexibility. They can move several feet in order to withstand the force of the wind. So keeping that image in mind, I'd like to talk about the strength inside our own cores in our individual lives and the flexibility needed to withstand the problems and conflicts of life. I'm going to make a little aside here. Hatha yoga is about strength and flexibility. So one of the resources from Soul Matters that I found intriguing was a speech by Tim Minchin, who was receiving an honorary doctorate at the graduation ceremonies at the University of Western Australia. I watched his speech on YouTube and then started looking on the internet for whatever I could find about him. Tim Minchin's name had seemed familiar to me, perhaps associating it with composing music. I found out that he's a very irreverent, quirky stand-up comedian, an actor and a musician, and a composer. He's also an atheist. You might enjoy his YouTube stand-up routine on religion and also his performance as Judas in a production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Anyway, I found his honorary doctorate address to be not only amusing and irreverent, but also philosophically appealing. I liked it. He gave 9 life lessons, and I would like to quickly take you through them. I have paraphrased and selected from his address. The words are mostly his. I have rearranged them and taken out some of the really irreverent and possibly offensive parts that you can enjoy later on YouTube. But first, what does this have to do with resilience, our theme for the month? I think that resilience has to do with strength and flexibility. Attitudes and belief systems help provide us with some inner structure and also the processes needed to be flexible and to move with the times and to survive. We need structures and processes in our lives that are practical, effective, and efficient. Resilience is not the same as endurance or persistence. I think of endurance and persistence as just doggedly hanging in there one day after the other, doing what has to be done whether one likes it or not. And believe me, all that is necessary in order to survive. We need those traits. I think of our ancestors and what they had to do to just physically survive. It must have required tremendous endurance and persistence. Resilience is an active word. It does not mean just hanging in there and doing what has to be done. It means a kind of strength that builds upon itself, brings knowledge and experience together in a structurally strong yet flexible way. So back to Tim Minchin and his philosophy. So for a few moments, pretend that you are graduating from high school or university and consider his advice and whether some of it will be or has been part of the resilience in your own lives. Before beginning, though, he says, don't go looking for the meaning of life. There is none. If you look, you won't find it. You have to create it yourself. And so, number one, you don't have to have a dream. Just be passionate and dedicated to short-term goals. We don't really know where we are going anyway. And if we look too far ahead, we may miss the shiny thing out of the corners of our eyes and miss an opportunity. Work with pride on whatever is in front of you. You don't know where you're going to end up. And now, number two, don't seek happiness. Better aim to make someone else happy, and then you will get the side effects. We didn't evolve to be constantly content. Number three, we are incredibly lucky. We didn't make our DNA, and having this human brain gives us the ability to make decisions for ourselves. If we have had good childhoods, then we are lucky people. And if we did not have good childhoods, then we are still incredibly lucky people because we can decide our own lives. We can't take credit for our DNA. We just got it as a gift. We can't truly take credit for our successes nor for our failures. Our incredible luck humbles us and makes us more compassionate. Empathy is intuitive, but it is also something we can work on. Number four, exercise. Take care of our bodies. It helps us to sleep, which we are going to need because life will make you depressed, and exercise makes it better. Number five, be hard on your own opinions. They need to be constantly examined. Science is awesome, but it's not an opinion. Gravity is not a theory. Number six, be a teacher. Teachers are the most important people in the world. Share your ideas. Even if you're not a teacher, be a teacher. Number seven, define yourself by what you love, not by what you dislike, not in opposition. Be positive and be generous in your praise. Number eight, respect people with less power than you. Number nine, don't rush, don't panic. Life is meaningless. Only thing we can do is to feel it, learn as much as we can from it, and fill up on it. So that's Tim Minchin's take on life. I think his philosophy has strength in it and also flexibility, a place to stand and a process for moving with cultural forces and time. A practice to fall back on, lean on, and flexibility to move into the future. I really enjoy learning about how people think about their lives. I have been reading memoirs lately, and that's probably due to my age. Another Soul Matters selection I enjoyed was from Maria Popova, who sends out a weekly internet newsletter called Brain Pickings. You all might like to subscribe to it. She gleans from the world of literature, art, science, psychology, philosophy, and distills it for her weekly newsletter. And these are some of Maria Popova's rules for life. Allow yourself the uncomfortable luxury of changing your mind. It's better to understand than to be right. Do nothing for prestige or status or money or for approval alone. They all distract us from what is important. Be generous with yourself, time, and words. Build pockets of stillness in your life. Sleep. When people try to tell you who you are, don't believe them. Presence is more rewarding an art than productivity. Expect anything worthwhile to take a long time. Seek out what magnifies your spirit, and don't be afraid to be an idealist. So resilience, I think, includes learning that we have perhaps acquired from our parents and from our experiences in the world. But also some of that structure or strength, I think, comes from our biology, our biological nature, our neurological makeup, our temperament, which permeates us completely. This physical package, in some part, dictates to us a sense of, this is who I am, this is me, how I am in the world. Everyone is put together a little differently. Our biological strengths and weaknesses vary, and each person must make the best of what he, she, or they are born with. We have to work with it, modify it, and use it to find a place in the world. The flexible side of resilience is there in attitudes and beliefs I heard from both Tim Minchin and Maria Popova. The flexible aspect happens in the process of living every day and solving problems in new ways and keeping our perspectives as wide and open as possible. Flexibility requires being aware of our emotions and thoughts and learning new ways of being. Brene Brown, PhD and LMSW, popular researcher and writer, says that when we are vulnerable, when we allow ourselves to acknowledge and admit the truth, regardless of the outcome, that is when we become authentic and open ourselves to more love, belonging, and joy. She says that failure and struggling and getting back up, persevering, is a spiritual practice. In her book, Rising Strong, she says, through love and belonging, we practice being vulnerable and acknowledging our failures, and this brings perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives. Again, I suggest that this is part of the flexible side of resilience, the part that allows us to live through the struggles of life on a daily basis. A quote from another person that I found interesting and helpful was as follows. You know, there is no bouncing back. There is only moving through. What happens to us becomes a part of us. Resilient people do not bounce back from hard experiences. They find healthy ways to integrate them into their lives. And so I went to the library and I found this author's book, which is called Resilience. The photo on the front and the name sure looked familiar. And then I saw he had been a Navy SEAL. And then I knew who he was. Eric Greitens, our former governor of Missouri. He had counseled other veterans about PTSD and then wrote a book about it. His words, though, I thought were good. I thought he described the process of living with painful experiences well. How do we feel about people's words when the people speaking them make sometimes some big mistakes? That's another subject needing context and perspective. So, to end my thoughts about resilience, I remember the advice my father gave me. He said, "Be a good person." To me, that really simplifies it. I think he meant be good to other people, try to be strong, be as good and as strong a person in as many ways as possible. Namaste. The interlude is Creative Spirit by the UU Virtual Choir.